The story begins inside a dark and filthy dungeon. There, our boy Ryun Sermon is chained to the wall while getting tortured purely for fun. His body is beaten and battered so badly that blood is dripping from almost every inch of his body. The one responsible for this mess is Lord Sans Parton, the monster who destroyed his powerful family. The reason he ended up in this nightmare is simple. Everyone in the Sermon family inherits great power, but the youngest prince inherited absolutely nothing from his parents. When Sans curses at the persistent bug that refuses to die, our prince tries to tell him to end his suffering already. But the white-haired scum replies he cannot understand a word. Dude literally ripped out Ryun's tongue a long time ago. After that, the Lord finally gets tired of playing around on the 3rd anniversary of destroying the Sermon family, and casually leaves the dungeon. Now all alone, our prince still cannot believe 3 years have passed since that day. You see, his family formed the vanguard for humanity, standing on the border of the Dark Zone, the mysterious place that endlessly spawns monsters. Because of that honorable duty, the Sermon family was the strongest of the 5 noble families on the entire continent. One day, however, Ryun's father and older brothers suddenly disappeared without any trace. No one knows what happened to them, and that moment became the beginning of their downfall. Lord Sans Parton saw this as the perfect opportunity to take them down. He used every dirty method he could find to drag the family into ruin during the chaos. His real objective was the Sermon family's dragon blood, a special blessing that only true descendants are gifted with. It makes them so powerful that they can become 7th-rank archmages in their childhood and swordmasters at just 15 years old. However, the former demon lord Arkan's curse can nullify that blessing. It only affects one child every few centuries, and unfortunately, our boy was the unlucky one who got cursed. That is why he could never learn how to use a sword or cast magic. Sitting there alone, he cries over the helplessness that allowed the Parton family to destroy his home so easily. To make things worse, the Psycho Lord tortured and experimented on him for 3 long years after ruining his life. Still, he is now so tired that he can't even get angry. He feels his death creeping closer, so he quietly closes his eyes so he can finally rest in peace. However, the world clearly has other plans for him. Our boy wakes up again. He is stunned because he sees a familiar face calling him young master. He is seriously confused about how his maid and caretaker Colin is standing right in front of him. As things start making sense, he orders her to bring him a mirror urgently. He is stunned again as he stares at his young self in the reflection, so he asks her what year it is. When she confirms the year, Ryun feels the earth disappear from under him when he realizes he somehow went back to the time he was 12. You see, this is not just any normal point in his life. This is the year everything began to fall apart, and the Parton family started making their moves. When he recalls the Golden Lord's final words about granting his wish, everything becomes clear. Just then, a dignified man who heard about him collapsing enters the room, and Colin instantly bows before him. Ryun quickly recognizes him as Alejandro, the revered knight commander of his family. The commander says he will allow the prince to rest because of his weak condition. Colin jumps in and says she already warned them this would happen. However, our boy surprises them both when he calmly says he is actually in peak condition. He immediately asks what they will be doing today in training. Alejandro cannot believe he is refusing an excuse to skip practice and reveals that today's lesson is focused on footwork. Confused, he wonders out loud if this really is the youngest prince. Our boy grabs his training sword and states there is no doubt he is Ryun Sermon with a confident smile. With the experience and power he earned during his brutal time in Adeon, he is fully ready to take on whatever they throw his way, because this is his one chance to fix everything and settle the score with the pale Parton parasite. Our hero checks his stats and feels relieved when he sees his skills aren't complete trash. He even finds his double S rank curse tucked in there. Right then, Alejandro walks in and says the preparations are done, so Ryun shuts the status screen and heads out with him. They reach the arena where a goblin is chained at the center, screaming its lungs out like a deranged gremlin. The monster hurls itself toward Ryun, but the chains yank it back in place. The tension around them spikes, and Colin begs the Knight Commander to stop this madness because the young master's condition isn't exactly ideal. Ryun gets that she's doing this for him since he couldn't even stand near monsters yesterday. He locks in now and tells himself he finally gets it and knows what he has to do. The system keeps flashing warnings that Arkan's curse is kicking in again, the same curse that turns monsters into nightmare fuel for him. As he looks at the status screen, he finally understands what the curse actually means. He readies himself with a deep breath. Alejandro says that he can take a rest for the day, but Ryun says that he is nowhere close to being done and steps forward. The goblin lunges the moment he moves, and its swipe catches him off guard. He slides backward out of pure fear before he forces himself to stop. He scolds his own brain and says it is just one smelly goblin, and he has no need to be afraid. He cracks a grin and thinks that this goblin does not even come close to the pressure that Lord had back in Adeon. That presence alone froze him like he was nothing. Compared to that, this weak little creature barely counts as a warm-up. He lifts his sword high and slams it down on the goblin's head with a clean, satisfying thunk. The Knight Commander and Colin both freeze with their mouths open. The system informs him again that he pushed through the curse and weakened its hold. He stares at the cracked sword in his hands and the terrified goblin on the floor. The next message pops up saying he no longer feels fear toward monsters. He stands there for a moment thinking it over before turning to Alejandro and ordering him to bring a real sword. The Knight Commander hesitates while Colin looks ready to pass out. Ryun gives the old man a confident smile, and something about it makes the veteran knight blush as he realizes the young master is finally become an alpha male. The goblin starts shaking the moment Ryun looks at him again, as if it already knows the end has arrived. Ryun swings without mercy and ends the poor creature's suffering with one clean strike. Alejandro tells Colin to watch closely because they are witnessing the rise of the next head of House Sermon. Ryun heads out after the fight and splashes cold water on his face to steady himself. He stares at his reflection and feels relief that the status and the system helped him break a piece of the curse. He slams both hands on the sink, getting excited since this means he has room to grow and real potential waiting to be unlocked. However, his mood then sours as he is not satisfied with the experience points he got. If things remain as they are, he would need to unalive millions of goblins to level up properly. He tells himself he needs to get stronger fast before that dreaded day crashes down on House Sermon. At the very least, he confirms that the curse is not absolute and can be broken. Staring at the system, he tells himself he cannot waste this chance, no matter what. Diving into lore mode, the current state of House Sermon is a mess because his father and siblings have been missing for more than 2 years. Even when he is weakened, he still holds an important position in the house, so the enemies have not made a move yet. Out of nowhere, he throws his fist into the air in excitement that he has finally found a way to raise his level. He decides it is now time to check out the second method. The scene shifts to a beautiful lady in red wearing a mask as she steps through the doors of the house. They sit together for tea and start talking. She says she heard about the monster hunt and smiles at him before asking if he called her for magic training. The lady is Sena, the leader of the magic section of House Sermon. Like the Knight Commander, she is a 7th rank mage with terrifying skills. No one knows much about her abilities or her life except for the head of the family himself. She puts her cup down and gets serious, warning him not to let the goblin hunt inflate his ego because magic is a completely different world. She explains that she never trained him before because she judged that he had no magical talent at all. Ryun smirks because he already knew that truth. The curse never even allowed him to sense mana, let alone wield it. However, everything changed yesterday, and he then fires back a reply with confidence that he can feel mana now, and the revelation leaves her visibly surprised. Putting the tea aside, Sena creates the image of a cool fire dragon. She then gives him permission to slowly open his eyes. To check if he can truly see mana, she says he should be able to recognize the shape she just drew in the air with her magic. She goes completely speechless when he instantly gives the correct answer without a moment of hesitation. It makes absolutely no sense to her how he suddenly awakened the ability to sense magic in just one night. The fact that he can see her drawings means his knowledge of mana is somehow equal to, or even higher than her own. She starts pacing around in worry, wondering how the little boy managed to progress so far so unbelievably fast. Then, Ryun reveals to her that his ability to see magic is practically useless. He can see mana clearly, but he cannot use the Sermon family's magic development techniques. So he wants her to help him overcome that wall. She is surprised he wants her help when he cannot even store magic inside his body. For that to work, Sena will have to directly force her own magic power into him. She warns him that she could kill him anytime she wants during the process. But our prince tells her that he is already so weak she can one-shot him anyway, so it is not a big deal. The real reason, though, is that she is the only person he trusts with his entire life. In the previous timeline, Sena stayed beside him until the very end, and even protected him with her body, long after her magic was exhausted. He requests her help once again, saying there is truly no one other than her he would ever entrust his life to. Later, Sena begins with the Blue Earth magic, the secret technique that has been passed down through the Sermon family for generations. She thinks it is still too early for him, but our boy has plenty of experience using it in Aedeon. Once she is ready, she tells him to focus as hard as he can, because he is about to enter a world of pain. She warns him there is no point in screaming or crying once it starts. The only way to end the technique is to think stop with every fiber of his being. Hearing her talk about intense pain, he gets sudden flashbacks of all the mad things Sans did to him before. After that, nothing on earth can scare him anymore. So he calmly reminds Sena that he trusts her with everything he has, and she should stop holding back already. Hearing that, she finally pours her magic power straight into him, and Arkan's curse activates instantly. Mana flows out of his body just as fast as it goes in. Still, he handles it like a pro, controlling every bit of energy during the short window it stays inside him. The curse forces the magic to explode out, but he concentrates that exploding power in one place as a loophole around the curse. Sena cannot believe her eyes because none of the energy she pours in is leaking out. Ryun keeps pushing forward even though every vessel in his body feels like it is about to burst open. But he does not hesitate, considering all the near-death fights he survived back in Adeon. In that hellish dimension, he became the strongest human magician alive. Even after the timeline shift, every last technique he mastered there is still perfectly etched into his memory. Suddenly, he absorbs all of the concentrated energy into his body, and Sena immediately stops flooding him with mana. Ryun collapses to the floor and curls up from the overwhelming pain. But this pain is nothing compared to what he endured before. All the torture and experiments Sans doctors performed on him for research were way worse. During one of those nights, he saw a black-robed figure break into the basement and slice down the doctors. The masked man dragged him out of the basement, even though he was badly wounded himself. When Ryun woke up later, he learned it was actually Alejandro who rescued him. The commander apologized for not saving him sooner, before the monsters in white coats did all that damage. Even then, Ryun was grateful just to see him again after being separated for 3 long years. Unfortunately, their reunion was cut short when the Parton family's guards appeared and rained arrows into the intruder's back. Reliving that tragic nightmare, Ryun snaps awake in the present with tears in his eyes. While he is relieved his magic experiment worked, he is also irritated that the nightmare ruined the moment. He steels himself and decides he will use this newly gained power to make sure that kind of ending never repeats again. Even though he is much stronger now, he knows he must keep his growth hidden, so the Parton family does not catch on too soon. To make sure they cannot interfere, he quietly makes a new plan. And the first step of that plan is to break the Sermon family's enemies ahead of schedule, long before the Partons get the chance to destroy it. Sometime later, Ryun scratches his head and announces that he failed the magic cultivation procedure. Both Sena and Alejandro freeze because they have no idea what he is talking about. After a short stretch of silence, he decides that he cannot tell them the whole truth, even after everything they have done for him. He normally never hides anything from them, but he figures that explaining his situation would only make things worse. Flexing his hands, he tells them that he tried his best, yet cannot feel even a shred of mana right now. He tells Sena she can check as many times as she wants. She accepts the offer and steps forward without hesitation. The mage activates her magic detection spell and grabs his hand as mana flows from hers. She states in shock that such a result is impossible while he puts on a calm smile. Pulling her hands away, she confirms that there is no trace of mana left anywhere in his body. Her voice shakes as she says she was certain she felt mana flowing through him the day before. Depressed and frustrated, Sena wipes her eyes and takes her leave while Ryun calls out to her. As the door closes, Alejandro turns to him and reminds him that he still has night training to focus on. Our hero gives a nervous smile and claims he cannot do that either. He gives a half-baked excuse that he barely ate properly after the last training session, which Colin can also confirm. That single statement drains the color from the Knight Commander's face, and he falls into a quiet depression of his own. Around 2 months later, Colin barges into Ryun's room and says with tears that he did not come out today either. With his father and brothers gone, the lady of the house carries all the duties and keeps things running. However, even she is slowly reaching her limit now. Colin heads back to the kitchen, and the other servants ask if the prince refused to come out again. The butler sighs and says it has been 3 months since the young master last slayed that goblin. Now he does not even answer Alejandro. Another maid then mutters that people often lose themselves when they try to change too quickly, and that hoping for him is useless now. Colin snaps at her and tries to defend the young master, saying that he tried his best that day. Her fire dies down the moment they casually call him by his old nickname, the bad luck of the Sermon family. Out in the city, people took it even further and started calling him the useless rubbish of the Sermon family. Hearing that, his loyal maid jumps and reminds the yapping man that he is only 12. But the butler tells her that expectations are everything when it comes to a noble. The other maid reveals that almost everyone is quitting one by one. The butler admits that he plans to stop working himself soon. He then asks Colin what choice she will make, but she stays silent. The scene then shifts to Ryun, who is calmly enjoying a medium-rare steak. He notices that the quality of the meals is dropping, which tells him that everything is about to hit the fan. Instead of panicking, he smiles like a devil while thinking that things are moving exactly the way he wants. He figures that the past version of him would have desperately tried to fix everything and eventually withered away. The new him is built different. He plans to lie low and make every enemy believe he is weak and defenseless. Then once an opening appears, he will strike without mercy and destroy them all. He recalls that the downfall of the Sermon family began the moment the head of the house went missing and the search party never returned. His older brothers vanished under similar circumstances, and their funding slowly dried up. The training ground that once overflowed with activity now has only a handful of weak knights left. The strong families who once hoped to form ties with them quietly abandoned them too. However, Ryun isn't bothered that much by the situation, because the peace and silence let him live his secret life comfortably. Even so, he is still dissatisfied with how slowly the family is declining and wants to push things along. Just then, Colin bursts into the room and shouts that it is time for training, and the Knight Commander is waiting. His mood instantly crashes, and he tells her that he wants to skip today as well. Colin refuses to accept that and yanks the covers off him. She slowly approaches him with unshakable resolve before lifting him up bridal style. With a serious look, she carries him out of the room and declares that she will never abandon this family. Meanwhile, our hero simply enjoys the free ride. Later at the training grounds, Alejandro scolds him for swinging the sword so poorly. He chews his ears off that swinging swords is a simple task. Ryun just sighs while thinking that the old man still has not given up on him. He wants to repay that loyalty one day, but he cannot let anyone discover that he has been training in secret. He even uses a body change skill to hide his real physique, although the skill is still weak. Right then, the system informs him that his stamina has increased and his eyes go wide. He immediately makes a bathroom excuse and runs off, leaving a confused Knight Commander behind. Staring at his reflection, he confirms that the skill breaks the moment he moves too quickly. Ryun opens his status window and smiles when he sees that his hidden training is finally paying off. He figures that he will reach level 20 soon, and plans to use the stats to unlock the Ghost class just like he did in the Gulag, while also building up his other classes. Just then, he notices Alejandro speaking to someone and wonders if a surprise visitor has arrived. He recognizes the man as Truno, the general manager of the Sermon family, who apologizes for disturbing him. Truno hands him a scroll, which makes Ryun suspect that the situation is a little different this time. However, the events have not changed. Alejandro already guesses what is going on while our hero reads through the letter. It states that the second prince of Darren Kingdom, Kyle, has invited him to the prince's birthday celebration. The young master smirks, pleased that the final piece of his plan has fallen into place. Soon, our prince is on his way to the Darren family's birthday party while still half asleep. Last night, Colin had too much fun playing dress-up with him so he could look as dapper as possible. She desperately tried to come along too, but she and his other retainers cannot accompany him. Unfortunately, the Knight Commander was sent out to control the sudden attack at the border. The monster assault was completely unexpected. Meanwhile, Sena had to leave urgently because her mother ordered her to return home right away. In the end, that leaves a 12-year-old family head with crippled social skills going alone to represent the entire Sermon family. Truno assures him that he should not worry too much because the Darren family is not foolish enough to pull anything. But Ryun believes that kind of safety only applies to the former Sermon family. Usually the family would simply send a retainer to attend these frivolous events. Now in its current state, our young master has no choice but to show up at a birthday party as the official house head. He does not mind it though, since he still feels responsible for the fast collapse. A few hours later, his carriage stops outside the Darren household. There, he finds Kyle Darren himself and an entire troop of maids waiting to receive him. Truno shows gratitude for the grand welcome in Ryun's place. However, our boy clearly senses the countless eyes aimed directly at him. As he walks through the reception, he hears all kinds of strange rumors and theories about the Sermon family's downfall and failures. Our prince simply smirks at them, because he already planned for all of this to happen from the start. He digs himself deeper when he opens with a weak hello to the nobles with no class or respect. That bold power move makes everyone in a 1-mile radius collectively facepalm in disappointment. Later in the dining room, one of his escorts is surprised that the young prince has not left his room in 5 whole days. The point of coming 1 week before the actual party is to build relations. But the escort team captain tells him to keep his hopes low. He points out the fantastic disaster Ryun displayed during the reception. He cannot believe the boy is shut in his room, because the rich people's food out there will be to die for. There is everything a man could ever want, including hot noble ladies. Just then, a man enters and informs the captain to gather his men, because the young master will attend the banquet after all. The two celebrate together, relieved that they will not miss out on the good stuff. The man also tells them to keep a proper report ready, while making sure they hide any mistakes the prince made. As for Ryun, he has been quietly training in his room till now, patiently waiting for the perfect time. While he did use the banquet to bribe his escorts into changing his report, his real plan lies somewhere else entirely. After all, the day of the banquet is the exact day when the bane of his existence arrives at the Darren household. All of the ladies chatting aloud go silent the moment Lord Sands steps into the place. Literally everyone around him tries to avoid an eye contact with him. Truno also tries to avoid his gaze, but Sans walks directly toward him without hesitation. Truno is left with no choice, so he starts flattering the guy about the great honor of meeting him in person. But Sans doesn't waste words. He openly says he heard the mighty Ryun Sermon also arrived at the party, and he would like to meet him. Truno pretends he has no idea what he is talking about, so Sans has no problem spelling it out for him, that he is talking about the Sermon family's biggest mistake who will bring them to ruin. Truno is shaken to the core. He knows that Sans is under a lot of pressure as the most talented mage in his family, but he never expected the guy to actually talk trash about the Sermon head in the Darren family's domain, which is directly under their authority. However, Sans quickly does an Uno reverse by saying the rumor must be fake. In fact, he claims he came to debunk the foolish rumor tarnishing the great Sermon name. But Truno does not buy any of it, since it is coming from the biggest dirtbag on the entire continent. It is said Sans started drinking at the prime age of 7 and even murdered one of his own subjects. At that moment, our boy makes a grand entrance with his escorts. Sans is exhilarated, while Truno nearly has a seizure, wondering why the young master came out at the worst time. Ryun's aura is so radiant that it makes everyone do a double take on their opinion about him. Seeing him now, they almost reconsider everything they assumed before. But Sans burns with jealousy because our boy overshadows him instantly, just because of his family's reputation. He walks right up to Sans and tells the man he has heard a lot about him from the fourth prince, his brother Lars. Hearing that, Sans smugly says he has heard much about him too. But before he can spill anything, our prince calmly says he is a truly kind person. He brings up how famous Sans was at his academy, and how he had to drop out after a few months because of his sheer popularity. Ryun reveals the messed up things he did, and smoothly reverses the roles. He says Sans once saved a poor kid from a bully, and even helped a female student who was being harassed by a shameless waste of oxygen. Sans is fuming inside, but our boy has yet to land the final blow. When he casually mentions something about his knee, Truno jumps in to defuse the situation. He pretends that Sans helped Lars by bringing him medicine for his injured knee. Then he quickly drags the prince away before things explode. Meanwhile, our boy is satisfied after absolutely grilling the white-haired prick. Sans takes his bold and mocking insults as a clear declaration of war. However, planting pure rage in the man is just the second step in his growing plan. Back in his room, Sans loses all his cool and shatters a flower pot across the floor. His temper explodes as he yells out insult after insult about our hero. Thinking back on the conversation, he realizes that Lars must have discovered that he did not leave the academy, but was actually expelled. Clutching his head, he curses under his breath that all that pressure to keep the incident hidden ended up being useless. He remembers the talk about the knees, and tells himself that the truth behind that specific incident must never be revealed. A flashback hits him, where he struggles to maintain a confident expression while barely catching his breath. Lightning magic dances around Lars, who tells the noble that he has really messed up this time. Sans tries to make excuses, spitting out that he did not know the girl was his partner and was only trying to greet the commoner. Ryun's older brother stays cold and reminds him that, before anything else, each person at the academy is a student. He commands him to kneel right now. Lars warns him that if he does not apologize from the bottom of his heart, then the entire Parton family will be crushed, and he will personally dispose of him. Sans collapses to his knees in complete humiliation while Lars keeps his lightning aimed at him. Snapping back to reality, Sans lets out another frustrated scream and tells himself that he must continue with his plans. He swears that he will silence Lars's younger brother no matter what it takes. After a moment, he forces himself to calm down and reassures himself that he will eventually get revenge on Ryun. A knock at the door breaks his thoughts, and he gives permission to enter. A figure steps into the room, which makes Sans raise an eyebrow in amusement, because he never expected a visit like this. The person turns out to be none other than Truno Hilda. Time skips forward to after the prince's party as our hero rides home in his carriage. He reflects that he managed to achieve every goal he had at the event, and presented himself well to the nobles. He is even happier that he succeeded in rage-baiting Sans, who fell for it in record time. Truno then speaks up and tells him that he performed marvelously at the banquet, and that he truly made him feel like there is still hope for the sermon house. Ryun calls him out instantly, saying that he did not build any meaningful connections, and even soured things with the House of Parton. The general manager quickly corrects himself, and says that the speech he gave against Sans was truly peak. Our hero chuckles and presses the button in the middle of the carriage. Truno looks confused and asks what is going on. The guy nervously asks the young master why he activated the soundproof spell. Ryun calls him out, saying that if he truly believed there was hope, then he would never have chosen to betray the house. Truno starts sweating and stammers as he asks what the young master means by that. Our boy tells him that his crime is unforgivable, but he is choosing to let it slide since he did it for house sermon. The general manager lowers his eyes and quietly asks how Ryun found out. Our hero tells him that he has a choice to make right now, and the man can judge himself the same way he always did in the past. As the carriage keeps speeding forward, Ryun lets him in on the secret plan he has been hiding. The idea shocks the manager so hard that he just stares at the boy in disbelief, wondering how someone like him could think up something like this. The manager then buries his face in his hands and breaks into tears as he says that he wants to shout proudly at the top of his lungs right now. Ryun seems satisfied with the guy's choice and tells him that they have already passed outside the capital. Truno looks at him again and wonders how this kid can stay so calm when he knows exactly what is about to happen. He suddenly realizes that it is not a smile on the young master's face but a fierce, murderous intent instead. At that moment, the carriage jerks to a stop, and the knight riding alongside tells the driver to keep going. He notices the driver slumped over dead and barely dodges an arrow flying for his face. One of the knights yells that it is an ambush and orders everyone to protect the carriage. He warns the group that the attackers are firing poison magic arrows, and the mages instantly throw up a protective shield. The knight captain takes control as he swats the arrows aside and demands that the cowards show themselves. Another knight senses that something is off and shouts at the captain. The man warns him not to get too close to the cart even if he is an ally. The knight then tells him that the carriage is empty, leaving everyone confused. Ryun has gotten kidnapped by someone, and now that man is taking him somewhere on horseback. Meanwhile, our hero is thinking about how much time has passed. He remembers from his past life when he was kidnapped. His family spent their time and money searching for him, which became the reason for the Sermon family's downfall. But now, since he knows the future, Ryun is confident of changing it. This is why, after coming back to life, our protagonist showed no effort to save his family. By doing so, he knew that other noble families would have come after him. So this was his plan to make them think he is a complete loser. However, unlike other families, the Parton family doesn't just kill the strong ones, so he was sure they would try to kill him eventually. Fortunately, it seems Sans Parton, the son of the Parton family, has fallen into his trap, which means he will definitely take some action during his journey back to the capital, and that's why our boy was ready with a plan, along with Truno, who was actually sent by the Parton family to kidnap him. While lying behind Truno on the horse, Ryun orders him to act according to their plan, after which he will definitely forgive him. Alongside this, our protagonist is working on increasing his levels, which have now reached level 20. After some time, Truno reaches the destination and is about to hand over our boy, who is pretending to be unconscious, to Sans Parton. In reality, Truno is the head manager of the Sermon family who made a deal with the Parton family to sell the young master to them. Even though he was caught by Ryun, the Sans still thinks he is on their side since this is the plan. According to their agreement, Sans hands over the information Truno asked for, claiming they obtained it from the Asen family's intelligence, assuring its reliability. Seeing Truno still suspicious, Sans claims that, though they are also a noble family of the Drea continent, selling information is their main business. He gives Truno the documents, stating they contain all the information about eyewitnesses to the Sermon family's mission of direct descendants. Hearing this, Ryun finally realizes the reason Truno sold him, because he is a loser who can do nothing for his family and status. But his elder brothers are capable enough to regain what was lost, so Truno wants to find them. Although Truno knew the Asan family had this information, it was impossible for him to obtain it directly, so he used the Parton family. Taking his leave, Truno also pleads with Sans to keep his other promise, which is to return the young master safely to the Sermon family. Once Truno is gone, Sans and his servants walk up to our hero, and one servant asks whether he should kill him, but Sans Parton claims there is no need because his family will abandon him soon, as he is now the real culprit in their eyes. In order to carry out the main plan, Sans must go back. As the scene proceeds, our protagonist wakes up and finds himself locked in chains. Sans Parton is standing in front of our boy, mocking him about his pathetic condition as a son of the Sermon family. Although Ryun knows everything, he acts innocent and asks Sans the reason for being here. As Sans tells Ryun that he has kidnapped him, our hero threatens him about what is going to happen next. Since Sans thinks Ryun is a loser, he laughs it off. After this, Sans kicks Ryun's face, telling him his father and brothers must have died by now. Moreover, Sans mocks our hero by saying that Truno sold him to the Parton family in exchange for information about eyewitnesses to his brother's kidnapping so he can find them, but no one tried to save Ryun himself, since he is a pathetic loser. Furthermore, he challenges our boy, saying the war between their families is just beginning, and that this kidnapping is only the start. At this moment, Ryun glares at him and activates the magic circle power, which leaves Sans too stunned to speak. Still tied to the chains, Ryun declares he has been waiting for this day since his return to this life. Although the green light fills the area due to Ryun's magic, nothing is happening, so Sans again mocks our boy. This time, our protagonist uses the silence magic circle on him, which results in Sans being unable to speak at all. Without the ability to chant any spell, his magic fails as well. Shocked and terrified, he then attacks our protagonist with firebolt magic, which does not require chanting. Ryun was kidnapped under the orders of the family head, who does not want him to die, so Sans is using the second circle magic, which our hero was actually expecting from him, but Sans is making a mistake here. Meanwhile, Sans thinks of targeting our boy's leg because, in this case, his father will not say anything. After analyzing Sans for a while, Ryun activates mana interference, which means every attack from Sans Parton will be wasted. Seeing this, Sans takes out a dagger, and as he is about to attack our hero, Ryun breaks free from the chains, something that isn't difficult for him. Moving forward, our hero uses paralyze magic and makes Sans unconscious. After some time, Sans wakes up, but now he is the one tied to the chains, while Ryun sits in front of him with a dagger in hand. Freeing himself from those chains, Sans thinks they are just ordinary chains without any magic, so he tries to break them easily, but as he attempts to do so, his body is hit by a high current, causing intense pain. Walking towards Sans, Ryun claims he has drawn magic circles over his body. This is actually a forbidden technique of drawing the circles into the flesh, and the blood activates the magic circle. In his past life, the the same was done to our boy. First, the awakening magic was used so he would not sleep, and then he was made to endure unbearable pain when scars were carved into his body. Still confused about how Ryun knows this technique, San states that to his knowledge, Ryun is not allowed to use mana. Meanwhile, our protagonist has started practicing everything after revival, and due to past life experience, he gained a lot of help. After getting the mana pills 3 months ago, Ryun practiced every skill he could. Moreover, the secret he learned in Aeon was helpful as well, which is that every skill has a circuit and a principle, and mana gets injected into each player's unique circuit to activate it. Furthermore, only master players like him know the existence of these circuits. With all this information, he did not struggle in the second life to achieve skills. Additionally, Ryun has visited this place secretly before to remember the location and structure so capturing Sans Parton would be easier. The magic circle our protagonist is using on Sans was supposed to be the other way around, but now he is going to make Sans experience the real pain. After torturing him for a while, Ryun prepares to leave, but Sans stops him. Turning back, our hero states he can run away before the arrival of Sans's family, which is coming in a week. Sans is shocked at how he knows this, so Ryun answers that he heard Sans ordering his servants to come back in a week. Since our protagonist knows the truth, Sans tries to deny it, saying they will actually come here any moment. But our hero knows he is lying, because if his subordinates were really coming at any moment, Sans would have tried to make Ryun stay there so they could kill him, rather than telling the truth like this. Although Sans tries to convince our boy to believe him, Ryun walks away, already aware of the reality, and tells him he will come again tomorrow. Now he prepares for the arrival of the Parton family, who will come after a week. After 7 days pass, the subordinates stand in front of the place where Sans and Ryun are located. The leader asks if anyone contacted Sans during this period, and one of them responds that although they weren't in contact with the young master, they observed all the passages here throughout the week. The leader then enters the building because the head has ordered that the sermon child be brought back immediately. Although others attempt to accompany him, he suggests they remain behind. Descending the stairs, the man notices something unusual, but as he steps onto the magic circle, he is immediately attacked by it. To defend himself, he erects a barrier, yet now he is certain that something has happened to the young master. Observing the various magic circle traps scattered throughout the area, he wonders who set all of these up. He creates a double barrier to reach Sans quickly and to identify whoever is responsible for all of this. Reaching the room where Sans is kept, he finds him bound by chains, with blood from his wounds covering the floor. Breaking the chains, the man demands the name of the person behind this, but Sans is too weak to speak. On the other side, our hero is present as well, sitting in a corner tied up with rope. Though Sans requests a healing potion, the man insists that escaping is the first priority, as he still doesn't know who is behind everything, and there are too many traps in the area. The man is puzzled about why the person responsible for Sans's condition didn't take Ryun along, which indicates there must be another motive. At this moment, Sans Parton finally manages to speak, saying that Ryun Sermon is the one who did this to him. Meanwhile, our protagonist remains in the corner pretending to be unconscious. As the man prepares to use magic on our hero, the real Ryun appears from behind, revealing he had used illusion magic as a decoy. Immediately, Ryun attacks the man, challenging him to face him first. The battle erupts between them, and both sides exchange attacks. After some time, the Parton family's man lands a heavy punch on our boy, causing blood to spray from his mouth as he collapses to the ground. Now, while our boy lies on the floor, the man states that although he cannot kill him, he can torture him just as he did to Sans. Unexpectedly, Sans seizes a dagger and plunges it into the man's neck. It is actually Ryun who has entered Sans's body using the soul transfer technique, and to add to that, the one who performs the soul transfer can control his own body as well. Our hero calls this his true trump card. After that, the man dies, so our hero takes out a healing potion and pours it over himself. Moving forward, he celebrates the fact that he has killed the Parton family's high-level archmage. Then, the system notifies our boy that his level has increased to 15 because he has completed the quest. He is still trying to understand how his level went up, but for now, Ryun knows he must take care of something else first. Next, he drags the archmage's body into a separate room and lays it on a wooden bed, clearly planning to do something with it. A circuit remains connected to a person's soul, which means he can still use his mana while inside Sans's body. So by removing the mana, our protagonist is dropping his level to meet the requirements for the assassin's hidden job, Shadow. Ryun finally succeeds in this plan, but with the levels remaining, he has 2 more tries available. Out of these 2 chances, our boy is successful on the second one as well. Although the plan was only supposed to go this far, after defeating the Archmage, Ryun decides to pursue a 3rd advancement to obtain the hidden job known as Ghost. This is a high-level job that helped Aeon become the strongest, and our hero feels confident he can get it too. However, the requirement for this job is the size of the soul, but Ryun is willing to take that risk. Without wasting any time, he begins the 3rd advancement. After much struggle and offering his own soul, he finally succeeds. and just as the system is about to inform him of his third advancement, our protagonist feels extremely anxious. Fortunately, he achieves success here as well and becomes the Phantom-level ghost job holder. The Phantom-level job is something our hero has never seen before, but he assumes it must be similar to the regular ghost job. Now that Ryun has succeeded with this plan, he shifts his focus back to the original goal. Killing the Archmage was also part of this plan, since during the ghost job, his own strength would increase as a result. Moving ahead, our protagonist activates Lich Creation, a process that normally requires a level 70 Necromancer, but can also be used by a 7-circle mage. The Lich Creation attempt fails, so the system activates a special undead creation instead. After a short while, a humanoid creature appears in front of Ryun. After the creation of the undead, the system asks our boy how he wishes to name it. The creation produces a sudden explosion, which puts the subordinates on high alert. After some time, our hero, still in Sans' body, exits the building with Ryun's body slung over his shoulder. Upon coming out, he explains that the Archmage betrayed them and caused all of this. Although he has bound the Archmage with an artifact, he urges everyone to hurry before the binding is broken. Meanwhile, he intends to return Ryun to his family. Mounting the horse, he instructs the others to restrain the Archmage until he can send help, promising a reward if they succeed. As our protagonist rides away, this becomes the last time they see the young master. Back at the Parton family estate, the servants report the situation to Pyrrhus, the 7th circle mage of the Parton family. When a servant mentions that the Archmage hasn't been found, Pyrrhus asks if anyone else is aware. Once the man confirms he's the only one, Pyrrhus orders his execution. The reason is that, although they are worried about Sans' disappearance, if word spreads about the Parton family's involvement in the kidnapping of the Sermon family's child, the consequences would be dire. At that moment, a disturbance is heard outside. Someone from the Sermon family has arrived and is killing their servants. Pyrrhus shouts at him to leave, but the man insists he will not go until he finds out what happened to the young master, Ryun. The recent explosion at the building, Ryun's week-long disappearance, and the Parton family's camp all point to their involvement in the young master's kidnapping. Trying to deflect suspicion, Pyrrhus claims ignorance and says their own young master, Sans, is also missing, suggesting they search for both young men together. The visitor refuses to believe him and is told to keep quiet. Truno, who is present as well, silently prays that the situation remains calm. Sena, a woman at the front, orders silence and calls him a traitor, but since Ryun has spoken on his behalf, he is being spared. At this point, Truno mentions that Ryun was supposed to leave a trace only the Sermon family could find. Acting on this, Sena begins searching, and after some checking, she finally discovers the clue. Sans Parton's body hanging from a tree, with a note stating, "I'm a kidnapper, please punish me." However, Sena finds a letter and begins to read it. In this letter, Ryun explains that his original plan was to remain in Sans' body and destroy the Parton family from within, but the risk of being discovered was too high. Furthermore, if he returned as Ryun, war would break out between the families, and the Sermon family was not prepared for that, so he is choosing to disappear for now. Sena burns the letter and tells Truno to return home. Meanwhile, a boy named Ryun runs through a town when a man calls him to the guild, saying the leader is looking for him. The boy is actually our hero. Later, Lady Sena learns that Ryun is, in fact, the Dragon of Drea. 3 months later in Painton, the capital of the Painstroy Kingdom, gossip spreads about the confrontation between House Parton and House Sermon. The cause of the conflict was a traitor from House Parton who kidnapped the bloodline heir of Sermon. Later, House Sermon had to accept House Parton's compensation. Still, they couldn't find either the culprit or the kidnapped son, making everyone doubt the Sermon family's claims. They were once a legendary household, but now they have completely fallen. At the Martin Assassin Guild, Sapphire, the Paint-on Branch manager, sits observing the situation. She notes that the Sermon family seemed to need the compensation money more than they wanted to search for their remaining bloodline. Duns brings up the execution of manager Truno while gulping down his beer. Sapphire explains that he had been cooperating with the traitor, which is why Alejandro carried out the execution immediately, beheading. Sapphire feels a little uneasy. Alejandro is a swordmaster, a rarity on the Drea continent, and yet he performs executions himself. Ryun enters, greets his uncle Duns, and approaches Sapphire in her office. She hands him a recommendation letter to officially register him as a guild member. Although he still has one test left, she slides the letter toward him, saying the test will be meaningless for someone like him. After all, he reached the final stage in only 2 months, which is surprising. She praises his exceptional talent at such a young age, something they haven't seen in centuries. He tries to act humble, but she quickly sees through his performance, though it's still better than when he first arrived. 2 months earlier, Ryun had suddenly appeared at their relatively unknown guild and slammed a large sum of money on the table for an assassination request. Since the guild accepts any request as long as the payment is sufficient, she treated him as an important client once she saw the amount. She insists that it wasn't just about the money. She had a gut feeling that she wouldn't encounter another client like him. Disguised as a beggar but carrying a fortune, Ryun requested that the target of the assassination be himself. Curiosity was the only sane reaction. After receiving the letter, he leaves, wanting to read it alone. Meanwhile, a masked man named Carl arrives and asks whether she accepted Ryun into the guild simply because of her intuition. Sapphire explains that Ryun completed all his training in 1 month, something that normally takes 5 to 10 years. She asks if he was able to investigate Ryun's background. Carl reports that Ryun was raised by an unnamed master who later disappeared, and that Ryun joined the guild to find information about that master. Because of Ryun's unusual request, he was thoroughly verified before being admitted into the guild. Carl also visited the place where Ryun supposedly lived with his master, and confirmed that the place showed real signs of long-term habitation. What worries Sapphire is the possibility that Ryun might actually be Ryun Sermon, the missing young master of the Sermon family. Ryun appeared at their guild around the same time Ryun vanished. Carl reassures her that the possibility is almost zero. Ryun was known for having no mana, no swordsmanship talent, and terrible stamina, making it nearly impossible for the two to be the same person. He tries to continue his report, but Sapphire cuts him off. He can't act like a detective forever. Instead, she assigns him to search for information about Ryun's mysterious master. Meanwhile, Ryun listens to their entire conversation from his room using a necromancer skill. He realizes Sapphire has sharp intuition. He opens his status window and notices that the level consumed during his job change has returned. Investing mana into body domination had definitely been worth it. Not only did it alter his appearance, but it also prevents mana detection. It has reached a point where he can even deceive the shape detection skill of a second-grade assassin. That day, an undead girl named Cornac appears. She possesses a remarkable set of skills, and Ryun notices she is a growing undead. He is surprised by her phantom abilities, which were not mentioned in the skill description. When he checks the circuit, a hidden quest appears, one that requires discovering secret conditions to complete. The completion notification popped up after defeating Archie. The combination of Hand of Death, Phantom, a skill circuit, and the quest resulted in the creation of Cornac. Right now she is just a mana-eating monster, practically a parasite to him, but he believes that someday she will become useful. Growth, to him, is about looking toward the future, not the present. Lost in thought, he is interrupted by Duns. Ryun explains that he was simply singing about becoming a full guild member after the test, and someday becoming the branch manager. Duns assures him that at the rate he's growing, it's entirely possible. He then mentions the 3 final candidates, only one of whom can pass the test. Passing will make them an official guild member and a 5th-grade assassin. Pala, Rin, and Ryun stand before him as he announces the beginning of the test. Duns asks for the target's information. Rin reveals details about Alok, a 47-year-old merchant who runs a store and always travels with 3 mercenaries as guards. 2 of the mercenaries are bronze-grade warriors, and 1 is a silver-grade mage. According to a rumor, he recently took a young concubine and visits her every night. During that time, the mercenaries give him privacy. Duns is impressed by the investigation done on the target. Not only that, Rin was also able to find a method to avoid the guards. The only thing that concerns Duns is the guarantee that the target will actually go to the concubine's room. Rin hadn't considered that, and Duns explains that this is exactly why Martong always gathers detailed information. He then turns to Ryun, asking for the information he obtained. Ryun questions whether he really has to reveal it, surprising the other 2 contestants. Even if they cooperate to complete the mission, they will not become formal guild members together. Only one person will pass the test. Because of that, he doesn't want to share any information. The 2 contestants are irritated, realizing they spoke too early. In the end, they are only colleagues. Ryun denies even being colleagues, saying they didn't learn that during training. Duns approves Ryun's response as the correct mindset and urges them to focus on their test. Discarding or using others when necessary is part of an assassin's nature. He asks whether the other 2 have anything to say, and they deny it in unison. Duns announces the start of the assassination test, and they all run off. He is reminded of the time when Ryun himself had to be assassinated. The time limit was set to 3 days, and the location was Painton. The special condition was that they had to register him as a special grade trainee at the Martong Painton branch. The assassins laughed, thinking they could find Ryun within 10 minutes. It turned out they failed. They couldn't locate him for the entire 3 days. They indirectly praised Ryun's tricks and traps. After the 3 days ended, Ryun received training from Sapphire, as she kept her promise. Back to the present, Ryun reflects that becoming a formal assassin isn't easy. The target for this test has been set at the highest difficulty, and he might be at the beginning of something historical. Meanwhile, Pala successfully bypasses the alarm magic and mechanical devices, avoiding the mercenaries. However, he didn't expect there to be additional mercenaries. Rin manages to hide herself and thanks Pala, since things worked out for her because of his actions. The target has been the subject of countless assassination attempts, so the place he chooses to hide is his main wife's bedroom. The wife is furious with him for having a concubine, and for attracting assassins. He insists that he wasn't the one who brought assassins, and that the room is fully equipped with safety devices. Rin overhears the conversation from the rooftop and decides to take down 5 ordinary soldiers around her so she can attempt a frontal breakthrough. Meanwhile, Alok's wife threatens him with a knife. She feels betrayed by his affairs and for taking the family's money. He tries to explain that the business funds were insufficient, but she knows he used that money to buy a gift for the concubine. Without hesitation, she stabs him in the heart, then bursts into tears as she realizes what she has done. Rin watches the target die at the wife's hands and is left confused, unsure whether her mission is a success or failure. She suddenly thinks about Ryun and realizes she hasn't seen him at all. She returns to report her failure, stating that the target was killed by the wife and not by her. She is shocked to see Ryun already back, wondering if he even went to the mansion in the first place. Paula returns safely as well. He escaped when the mercenaries began fighting among themselves. Duns announces that the commission was not a failure, because Ryun succeeded. Both contestants stand stunned as Duns explains that Ryun had controlled the wife and used her to kill the husband with his skill. Then, Duns asks for an explanation, and Ryun explains with an annoyed expression. He says that the solution lay between the target and his main wife, using the target's internal affairs, making the contestants think that maybe the branch manager had given him special information on the target. But Ryun says that gathering information on him, who is a fairly famous merchant, wasn't a hard task to do, and according to Rin's information, Alok was a liquor distributor and had brought in a new mistress. While the two contestants were busy gathering their information, Ryun had already finished his investigation and started to move according to the plan he had prepared in advance. Paula wonders how he was able to finish investigating before he even knew who the target was. Ryun reveals that the target wasn't the only person he investigated. Everyone in the city with bad rumors or assassination risk was already investigated by him beforehand. He had started getting close to the merchants of the city who knew the rumors, and since he had completed training within 2 months, he was able to prepare for the assassination of each possible target. He prepared everything beforehand, no matter who the target ended up being. It was like revising the whole book for a small test. So while he was investigating, he learned that someone held a deep grudge against Alok, his main wife, Kelly. He got in contact with her while she was constantly being mistreated by her husband, and he taught her a solution: to secretly commission the assassination guild. As the target kept ignoring his wife and bringing in mistresses, he also kept running his business using his wife's family money. Kelly hated him enough to kill him, but she didn't want him to die, so he told her that if she hired additional mercenaries and strengthened security, her husband would simply get scared and stay safe. So, in the last moment when he ran to his wife's bedroom, Ryun had already suggested to her that she should frame the assassination commotion as a plot by the mistress and her lover, and that he would then come back to his senses and return to her. Kelly was drunk, and she accepted the plan, and he admits that everything would have gone according to her wishes if it had proceeded only up to that point. But right before the assassination plan took place, he also gave her some more information. Her husband had spent all the money he took from her family while claiming it was for business funds. Basically, the test was pre-planned, and he smartly diverted it in his favor. Duns is still confused about how a civilian woman stabbed her husband to death. Ryun explains that the alcohol that was delivered was mixed with a potion he made with alchemy, because it would be dangerous if casualties occurred, so he mixed some drugs into the water that the mercenaries also drank, and it happened to activate at the right time. The drug had the effect of temporarily clouding judgment and making one easily angry. Paula realizes that the mercenaries fighting each other was due to the drug he created. So in simple words, everything went according to what he planned, and the information he leaked combined with the effects of the drug made Kelly even angrier to the point where she killed him. Then, Duns congratulates him on clearing the test. Ryun also informs Duns that he is about to receive the commission fee and an extra charge from Kelly because Kelly suddenly became a murderer, but it is still a fact that assassins infiltrated. Only they know that Kelly killed him and not an assassin, and she would pay anything to cover herself up for the crime she just committed. All of them are left stunned, considering how high his level must be since his work is really sharp and respectable. Duns sends the two contestants back but stops Ryun. He confronts him about what he has done, saying that the wife now has to live with the guilt of killing her husband for the rest of her life, and that there is something Ryun never took into consideration. Their guild makes assassins, not monsters. Ryun calmly explains that he viewed her as an ordinary woman until he realized that Kelly used to kill all the mistresses her husband had. Even Alok ruined many lives because of his drugs, loans, and running gambling dens behind his business. Kelly was able to hide all her killings due to her family's power, and her husband was tired of her. But he still didn't stop taking more mistresses even though he knew that every one of them would be murdered in the end. The mistresses' families are still looking for them, but Kelly's power easily conceals her crimes. These sorts of details are not normally revealed during an investigation, and this was, after all, an assassination request for a test case. Even if she didn't want her husband to die, the guild that received the request can only receive the full payment if the target dies. Then, Ryun questions whether the client's feelings or circumstances matter in an assassination attempt, because all they do is for money. He also says that Kelly never said she didn't want to kill her husband with her own hands. Instead, she tried to use the assassination request, and the request was completed in their own way. Even if the consequence is that she lives the rest of her life with guilt for killing her husband, it's none of their business. Duns wonders if conscience is unnecessary for assassins, and Ryun says that if they want to maintain their humanity, they should grow their power and change things from the root. No matter how much they search for conscience when taking assassination requests, there is nothing that can be changed, and then he walks away. Sapphire congratulates our boy on passing the test and announces that he is now a formal guild member and a 5th grade assassin. As soon as she announces it, his level goes up. His system notifies him that he has acquired Philip's and Pala's respect and has earned Dun's expectations. Sapphire informs him that he can now accept the guild's official requests, and he can also apply for promotion if he meets the conditions. She didn't think he would apply for promotion right away, but he cuts her off and begins reciting all the conditions for promotion. Then he immediately asks how much payment the alloc request earned them, without any hesitation, and Sapphire feels a little pressured. She ends up telling him that the advance payment was 10 gold, the completion payment was 10 gold, and they also received 10 gold from Kelly for concealing the murder. He says that even if it was just a test, he is the one who completed the request and earned the additional amount, and since the promotion condition is 30 gold for a single request, he has met the requirement for promotion. He instantly receives the option to apply for a promotion to 4th grade assassin. She tells him to be cautious of being too arrogant and not to take them lightly, since they also have their own laws and policies as an organization. Among assassins, they are only considered the real deal starting from the 4th grade. Mostly though, she is annoyed by his attitude since it disregards the other assassins. She tries to brush it off, but he loudly affirms that he will not withdraw the promotion application. She begins to yell at him, but Duns, who supervised the test, affirms that Ryun is qualified to take the 4th grade promotion test because it wasn't out of disregard for them. It was something important that he showed in the test: pure physical ability. He did not rely on elaborate plans, but on assassination skills using the body's capabilities as an assassin, and he won the assassination attempt with brilliant strategies. And not just that, but they can also take this opportunity to gauge Ryun's skill level, or they could teach him a lesson he will never forget. Sapphire thinks back to the tag game. It was mostly trap techniques. She finally agrees to a promotion test and warns him that assassins must risk their lives for this test, and he accepts the challenge. Later at night, the three of them sit with Duns, and Duns informs him that the earliest the test could be conducted is in a month or two. Until then, he could train him. But Ryun politely declines the offer because he wants to rest until then. He informs them that he will be away from the guild for a while, and once he becomes a formal guild member, it is okay for him to leave the branch's territory. He assures them that he will return before the test, and that he will stop by the Martin branch to check for updates on the test. Then they continue drinking together until they feel fulfilled. Ryun knows that he won't be getting any free time after becoming a 4th-rank assassin, because they receive requests continuously. Since the target is a branch leader, it's expected that there won't even be time to take a nap, so he needs to leave before that happens. He arrives at the Dark Zone, the land of the dead. Meanwhile, a noble sets out with his knights and sees our boy, immediately questioning who he is. Ryun gets up, saying his leg is injured and he can't walk anymore. He asks the noble to give him a ride to the village, or else he will die there. The noble acts arrogantly, saying he would have killed him if he weren't in a hurry. But Ryun clearly notices that he wasn't in any hurry at all. Ryun begs to be allowed on the carriage, and the noble, named Kennel, is instructed from inside the carriage to put the child inside. Kennel refuses and instead places him on the horse with him. While riding, Kennel questions him, and our boy introduces himself. The noble says he's only alive because of the young lady in the carriage, and he's lucky to have met her. But Ryun knows this wasn't luck, it was pure planning. The young lady was Sentin Rose, blood relative of the Rose family who bore the Rose crest. For that purpose alone, he cleared all dangers before departing, and he learned that the Rose family's procession would be taking the same road as him. So he had been living quietly in the outer territories of Feinstroy. But the Rose family had suddenly collapsed, and she was forced into exile. He knows that only minor nobles from the border region remain, so the escorts aren't even real knights. They are merely the family's private soldiers who were granted knighthood. The entire story behind the fall of the Rose family is tied to the Sermon family, as far as he has investigated. One of the knights wonders why the Sermon family is involved in all of this. Another knight says that the Cunning family assassinated the Rose family's head to hide evidence of their secret dealings. When Ryun hears this, he is shocked. After a while, they make a small stop. What Ryun learned today was the downfall of the Rose family, which originated from the recent conflict between the Sermon and Parton families, the Darren kingdom, to which Sermon belongs, and the Feinstroy kingdom, to which Parton belongs. The eldest son of the Rose family was affiliated with a rival nation and became a knight of the Sermon family, where the ties between them began. While performing duties in the Dark Zone, he was killed by a monster, and the Rose family was honored by the Sermon family with a massive aid. Another family, who competed with and resented the Rose family, began to support the Sermon family's actions and used the dispute as an opportunity. This led to the assassination of the Rose family's head. Rumors spread that the Rose family had been secretly working for Sermon in the shadows, and that Sermon wanted to hide evidence, so they killed the head. But the Rose family claimed that they were actually killed by Parton. However, it didn't matter, since Parton was a growing influence at the time. Now, after losing the head of their family and collapsing in power, the Rose family is being exiled toward Darren. The only ones who know the truth are those within the Rose family who did not abandon Senton Rose. As Lady Rose sleeps inside her tent, the other knights are scattered around outside, some standing guard, others sitting by the fire listening to Kennel. He's going on about how the Parton and Ani families are actually the shady ones, while the Sermon family has always tried to help. The guards cheer at that, and meanwhile Ryun is quietly slurping down his soup beside them. One of the guards glances over at him, wondering if the kid is bored with all the political talk. Instead, Ryun raises a quiet concern of his own, questioning whether it's wise for them to speak so openly about such matters in front of a random child, especially in the middle of an exile mission. The guards just shrug it off and keep talking, pointing out that Lady Rose is the one who's suffering the most here. She, Kennel, and the newer knights lack experience, so they haven't fully realized how serious this whole mess is, especially when it comes to the Ani family. Ryun knows exactly what this means. The head of the Ani family is a hopeless womanizer who's had multiple assassination requests placed on him at the guild, requests Ryun personally rejected because the risk-to-reward ratio was awful. Despite his disgusting lifestyle, the guy is extremely cautious about his own security. And if someone that paranoid is targeting Lady Rose, then camping out in the open like this is pure madness. Just then, Ryun catches movement in the darkness, a quick leap behind them in the trees. Realizing it's a tail already following them, he decides not to risk alerting anyone by attacking. Instead, he slips away into the shadows and begins digging traps to slow down whoever's tracking them. By the time he gets back to camp, the guards stare at him in confusion, wondering why he's suddenly covered in dirt. They have no idea he's already prepared enough traps to stall the pursuer for a while. With that handled, and armed with the information he gathered from the Rose family earlier, he quietly heads back to his tent, intent on resting up so he can part away at dawn. The next morning, they start their journey again and eventually reach their destination, Dasum Village. Camille glances at Ryun and wonders out loud what a little kid like him plans to do in a village so close to the Dark Zone. Ryun casually lies that he's a merchant who deals in monster materials, and with that, he gets ready to part ways. But before he can walk off, the knight stops him and hands him a healing potion, apparently on Lady Rose's orders. Ryun is caught off guard, but he accepts it, and the caravan heads out, leaving him alone with the potion. He chugs it immediately, and just as he does, a group of horse riders thunder past him. Ryun instantly recognizes them as the pursuit party, mercenaries, swordsmen, magicians, and leading them is Garuta Ani, the second son of the Ani family. They all race by without even glancing at him. Even so, Ryun's honestly surprised they managed to catch up so fast despite all the traps he set. Then something else catches his attention, the potion bottle. Up close it looks expensive. Naturally, it makes him wonder what Lady Rose was thinking, giving something like that to him when she's basically living like a fugitive and her family has almost no chance of winning. Ryun knows Garuda will catch her eventually. It should have been none of his business, or at least it was supposed to be. However, now that he's taken their pricey potion, he can't shake the feeling that he owes them something in return. So with a quiet sigh, he opens his magic circles and summons Kornak. From all its power, he declares her first task. As the Rose family moves along quietly, Kennel suddenly hears something and instantly goes on high alert. He urges everyone to pick up the pace and motions for the lady to hang back. The others are a little thrown by the sudden orders, but they fall in line as Kennel makes it clear that mana users are chasing them. With the border coming up, he sets a backup plan that if the pursuers catch up, the two frontliners are to grab the lady and get her to safety as fast as possible. Taking charge, Kennel turns and rushes toward the pursuers, ready to buy time despite knowing the Ani family knights are far above his level. Meanwhile, the Ani family riding party arrives at the mountain pass, surprised to see only one knight standing in their way. At the same time, Kennel stops his horse in front of them and warns them to turn away, but is shocked when Garuta Ani removes his hood, revealing who he is trying to stop. Though his fellow party members consider it reckless to show his identity, Garuda doesn't care. Their mission is to kill everyone except Saintine. Without hesitation, he orders his men to bring the girl before they cross the border. As the mercenaries charge, Kennel tries to stop them, but he is struck by a mage's blast and falls to the ground. Badly hurt, Kennel struggles to gather himself, but to his shock, Garuda also brings up his own knight. Even more surprising, it's Siso, Keneal's former captain of the Rose Knights, who Garuda has lured over with money. Wasting no time, Siso clashes with Keneal and, in just a few swings, manages to knock the sword from his hand. Relentlessly, he tries to persuade Keneal to abandon the Rose family and serve a new master, but Keneal refuses, even if it means death. Hearing this, Garuda gives the signal to finish him off. Just as Siso is about to deliver the final blow, something strikes him in the back. It turns out to be a green flame from Cornac coming to the rescue. Without pause, she follows up with multiple blasts that kill Siso in an instant, though Garuda is shielded by his mage just in time. Meanwhile, back near the border, the Rose family riding party is thrown into chaos. With the carriage completely destroyed, only 2 knights remain to defend Lady Rose with everything they've got, while the 2 Ani mercenaries mock them for being so easily overwhelmed. As the situation grows more desperate, Lady Rose herself steps out of the carriage. Calm yet resolute, she orders her men to lower their weapons. Then, holding a knife to her own neck, she demands that the Ani mercenaries take her if they wish, but warns that they must spare her men, or she will take her own life, which is clearly at odds with their employer's intentions. However, to her shock, the mercenary sneers that as long as she hasn't reached Darren, she is neither noble nor anything of worth. In the next instant, one of the mercenaries flashes behind her and snatches her knife, ready to show her what it means to cross a mana user. Seeing this, the Rose family knight attempts to retaliate, but before he can act, Ryun appears in a flash and delivers a powerful kick straight to the mercenary's face. The remaining mercenary, initially shocked by Ryun's sudden entry, is even more stunned when Ryun reveals that he is a Martin assassin who came prepared with a down payment of soup and a potion. Realizing the advantage, Lady Rose quickly puts the pieces together and offers 30 gold for handling everyone. Yet, for Ryun, this is far too little as he is willing to take the 30 gold just for the first mercenary. But there are still the second son of House Ani, the knight commander, and a mage remaining. Understanding the stakes, Lady Rose knows that if she doesn't act quickly and hire him, their exile mission will fail, and House Rose could fall. In an anxious state, she agrees to give Ryun everything he asks, and he gladly accepts. With that, he leaps into the air in a blink and charges at the mercenary, who hesitates, questioning if Ryun, having revealed his identity, is a real assassin. Ryun loads up his attack, and with a single swing, takes down the first mercenary, showing that he doesn't make mistakes, even confident enough to reveal his true identity. Thus, the first conquest at Martin begins for Ryun, with the price being everything. While Ryun lives in his moment of glory, the downed mercenary rises, laughing maniacally, claiming they won't be defeated so easily. Before Ryun can turn, the mercenary he had taken down first swings his sword at him mid-attack. However, Ryun easily dodges, forcing them to realize they cannot let their guard down against a Martin assassin. Reacting immediately, both mercenaries launch into a synchronized assault, using position-switching swordsmanship to attack Ryun at the same time. In response, Ryun activates his body control and acceleration, appearing all around them in the blink of an eye. This completely confuses the duo, who start suspecting illusions as they fail to land a single hit. For the moment, they decide to wait for the perfect timing to counterattack together, but little do they know, it's already too late for that. Ryun flashes in front of the men, revealing that he has already applied physical warnings and other curses on them. Before they can react, and as they begin to weaken, Ryun slashes them inside out, taking them down in a brutal blood splatter. As the sun rises, everyone gathers themselves, tending to the fallen and rebuilding the carriage. Around the same time, Keneal arrives. The moment he steps in, his first concern is for everyone's safety. Seeing him, Lady Rose feels relief and starts tearing up, while Ryun quietly knows it's all thanks to him. Curious, the guards wonder if Keneal took down all the pursuers by himself, but the knight reveals that he received help from a mage who appeared out of nowhere. With that aid, they were able to capture Garuda and defeat the traitorous knight. As they discuss the mage, Cornac herself arrives. Responding to Ryun's magic circle signal, she drops Garuda, wounded and beaten, from the spell. Seeing Ryun, Keneal recognizes him as the kid he helped earlier, but to his shock, Lady Rose reveals that he is an assassin from Martin. Recalling the fight, Keneal realizes that his presence might explain how the mage was able to take down enemies so easily while he was fighting. Hearing that he is from Martin, Garuda quickly tries to save himself, offering to pay triple to be let go, knowing that for an assassin, the reward matters more than the person. However, to everyone's shock, Ryun grows annoyed and uses his spell to cut Garuda into 2 pieces for talking too much. With that, he also makes his point to Lady Rose, showing what happens to those who try to skip their payment. Terrified, the lady agrees, and Ryun then approaches the reward, explaining that he doesn't want it immediately, understanding the Rose family's current situation. Still, he insists on a verbal contract for the deal, one that will remain secret. Once the agreement is set, he suggests they keep moving toward their destination, reassuring them that the guild will handle the corpses after they leave. With that, Ryun starts to leave, but Kennel, impressed by how thoughtfully he managed the situation, calls out to him. Ryun just winks in response, snaps his fingers, and vanishes before their eyes. This shocks the guards, but what truly surprises Kennel is that, despite the boy calling himself an assassin, what he summoned was not a normal undead. It clearly spoke in human language. On top of that, it almost simultaneously defeated Siso and the mage. Seeing this, Kennel realizes that if someone can command such a powerful undead, there's a possibility that Ryun might be a disciple of the most legendary necromancer, Veda.